Hello, everybody. It's me, Freddie Friday. Happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Freddie Friday Story Fun Time with me, your host, and I just did Frederick Fred Friday. And my producer, too, please say your name. James. James, please zoom out and show my outfit, please. Okay. You're wearing the field coat today? Yeah, I'm wearing the field coat, but it draped over my shoulders instead of on my body, and there's a good reason for it, you know? Well, it is your Uncle Frank's field coat. Well, no, that's not the reason. The reason is because episode 102 is gonna be called the D-Day Commemorative Canine. Because it's the anniversary of D-Day, you know? Yes, D-Day, June 6, 1944. Yeah, 81 years ago today. And I thought we could talk a little bit about D-Day because I got some family ties to it. Oh, yeah? Yeah, you see my Uncle Frank, his grandpa, my great-great-great-uncle Francis Friday, you know? Oh, yeah, yeah. He was across the ocean in England, you know, from Le Havre on D-Day because he was running. He was like he was information runner for the army, you know, that was there. He was hanging out with Dwight Eisenhower. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Okay. But, you know, it's been 81 years since D-Day, which for those who don't know, D-Day was the storming of the beaches of Normandy and Le Havre, France, by order of the Allied Army in order to penetrate the mainland of Europe in the middle of World War II, towards the end of World War II. Over 100,000 men in wooden boats, they called them Higgins boats, under heavy-duty gunfire, especially at there were several different beachheads, you know, and the one that thought the most fire was Omaha. And, you know, that was kind of commemorated, done really, really well, apparently, in Saving Private Ryan, you know. I know, that's a tough one to get through. Yeah, well, can you imagine if you were one of the men who survived that day? A lot of guys I heard who, at that point in time, they would have been, you know, in their 70s when Saving Private Ryan came out in 1998. They couldn't watch it. They had to leave the theater. Well, you know, who wants to remember that, you know? I mean, with the valor and the bravery, you know, you're literally, for those who don't know, the wooden Higgins boat, they were basically floating boats, you know, wooden because, well, you know, a little bit more lightweight and, you know, not as expensive. Because they weren't really there for the long haul, these boats, that is. They were just there to carry the troops. So that you get the boat as close as you can to the shore, where on the other side, the Axis powers, which in this case was basically the Nazi Germans, they were totally fortified at the coast, you know, with bunkers and, you know, they had like landmines on poles and things like that. So, you know, if you do make it to the shore, well, we're just going to shoot the landmine and blow it up as you run by, you know. Terrible, but it is warfare, you know. What are they going to say? Oh, come in? No, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Of course, while that was happening, the Army Airborne, you know, like the Easy Company. Yeah, Easy Company, which was highlighted in the Band of Brothers. Yeah. Well, they parachuted in ahead of time, trying to cut down enemy telecommunications line, things like that. But if you were in the infantry, the grunt work, the pawns, you know, I hate to say it that way, but that's kind of what it is. You were storming the beachhead under heavy gunfire. Apparently only 4,000 men died that day, but a lot of them died on Omaha Beach. Because, you know, you had the guy who had the door, you know, and there was a famous guy, he died a couple of years ago. He lived when basically no one else lived on that boat. Because he was all the way in the back, you know? Well, because he was controlling the door. Yeah. You throw the door open so the guys, you get as close as you can to the beach, you know, but you can't go too close because then you would ground the ship. So let's say you get as close as being like, you know, maybe like 8 feet of water, you know, 7 feet, something like that. You could jump down. Let's say it was, you know, Le Havre is a nice beachhead, you know, in general. But, and it was Le Havre was a long time, excuse me, people. Le Havre was a long time, like going all the way back to the early 1800s and things like that. Transatlantic jump-off point. You know, if you were going to sail to North America, Le Havre was a port of call to do that, you know. So anyway, you know, the men, they got as close as they could. You threw the door open, and basically the Germans are just sitting there waiting with the machine gun. The door gets thrown open, and they just get gunned down immediately, like literally immediately, you know. Just terrible. And those who could make it they had to swim to the shore, and just basically it was the Americans, the New Zealanders, the Canadians, and the British. Even some Italians, you know, because by then they had been, you know, they switched sides basically from the Axis. to the Allies because Mussolini had been killed, overthrown and killed. And it was just like, okay, you're going to get some of us, but we're going to, we can stand the numbers, basically, the casualties. Right. Yeah. And we're just going to storm the beachhead. And you can't pick us all off. We're going to get you eventually. And it kind of did. It took a few days for them to connect all the beachheads, but they basically did, and the Germans had to fall back into an interior position. And from there until the Battle of the Bulge, with the fall, the winter, basically. So for the next few months, there was a lot of Allied ground that be made up, but it wasn't as, let's put it this way. The reports coming in were positive, and it was still positive, but it wasn't quite as glowing as the reports were because, Leo, you don't want to, unless you absolutely have to, you don't want to make it seem like it's worse than it is. You want to make it seem like it's better than it is, Right. Kind of like how I feel about living with this guy. But seriously. So today is D-Day. You have anybody? We talked about this. Your great grandpa. He was in the service. Yeah, but he was in the Pacific. He wasn't in. He was on the Pacific theater, not in the European theater. IT. Was he in the service by 1944? Yes, he was. Okay. And how old was he? Well, on D-Day he would have been 25. He turned 26 in August of 1944. IT. But that's what you're seeing too, basically, people. We're talking kids, 18 to 25, basically. He was a married man, right? Yeah, so they took the married men last when they could during the war effort. But by 1944, you're 3 years into the war already. At least you're 5 years into the war, but 3 years into the Americans being in the war. Right, exactly. All hands on deck, no pun intended. Everybody got to do this. So anyway, I wanted to commemorate the day with a little bit of a not jokey joke episode because it's important. We can't forget. 81 years ago, D-Day. June 6, 1944. Anyway, the end, producer. The end. Yeah. Where did they find us? At Freddie Friday on YouTube. Yup. Jokes on Tuesday, stories on Friday. That's right. At Freddie Friday Story Funtime on Instagram. Yup. And you can tell me an email at FreddieFridayStoryFuntime@gmail.com. So until Tuesday joke, producer. Until Tuesday joke, Yeah. Toodles. To the one you love.